to your teacher.
Hello, Miss Huff.
Hi, glad to have you
Hey,
guys.
Miss Huff.
Good morning. All right, I'm going to take attendance. Sorry, I'm typing and talking. I'm going to take attendance and then we're going to get started so that we can get through chapter 9, 8 and 9. All right, here we go.
McSally's attacks on Navy combat veteran Mark Henry just aren't true. They've been called ridiculous and shameful.
Please work on anything that you need to be turning in. You have a few minutes before class actually starts. I'm doing attendance right now. I know, Santiago, I saw you. Glad you're here. All right. Yes, Jasmine, it's tomorrow, 2:45. Okay. All right, let's get started. I'm going to hurry up, Santiago. Go, go, go. I'm going to be reading chapter 8 because for some reason it's not on YouTube. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. I might call on a couple of people to also read, maybe, maybe not, but we need to finish this so we can get to chapter 9 and I can show you what your assignment is today. Oops. Darn. Okay. Because I want you to have all the information, not just part of it. Chapter 8. Kind of gonna go quickly. If you have a question, raise your hand in the chat. Put your question. But here we go. I would suggest you take a couple of notes so that you can do your reflection afterwards. So take a few notes to do your reflection afterwards. Chapter 8, the omnivore's dilemma. Is that food? For some animals, there is no dilemma at dinner time. The koala eats eucalyptus leaves, period. To the koala, eucalyptus leaves equals food. The monarch butterfly only eats milkweed. There's no choice to make. Everything else in nature is not food. The koala gets all the nutrients it needs from eucalyptus leaves. The monarch gets everything it needs from milkweed leaves. But unlike koalas and monarch butterflies, omnivores not only can eat different foods, we need to eat a variety of foods to stay healthy. For example, we need vitamin C, which is only found in plants. But we also need vitamin B12, which is only found in animals. Ultimately, our omnivore's dilemma is rooted in our nature as human beings. But we've made our choices much harder than they used to be. That's important for our author's purpose in writing this. That's an important note that you might want to take down. Omnivore, carnivore, herbivore. Awesome. Thank you, Santiago. Okay, make sure you are taking a couple of notes in your own words. Okay? Omnivore, carnivore, herbivore. Human beings are omnivores. Omni in Latin means all or everything. Vor comes from the Latin vorre, which means to eat or devour. Carnivores, like lions and sharks, eat only meat. Carne is Latin for meat. Herbivores, like cows, eat only plants. Herbe in Latin means grass or green plant. The industrial food chain has brought the world to our supermarkets. Today, we can buy just about any sort of food from anywhere in the globe in any season. We can buy kiwis from New Zealand and grapes from Chile. We can buy fresh tomatoes in the middle of the winter flown in from Israel or Holland or Mexico. Add that to the thousands of new processed foods, about 17,000 each year, And we have an incredible amount of food choices, even if most of them are made from corn. With all this variety and the constant stream of messages from the food industry and the media, how can we ever make up our minds? Not like the koalas, the modern omnivore. Over thousands of years, human beings built a culture of food that helped us figure out what to eat and what to avoid. We learned what was safe to eat and what could kill us. We learned how to find and cook local foods. These rules and habits made eating a lot easier. When it was time to eat, people didn't have to think about it much. They ate what their parents and grandparents had eaten. If you lived in Mexico, you ate rice, beans, and corn tortillas. If you lived in West Africa, you ate cassava, yams, beans, and millet. What you ate also depended on the season. You ate apples in the fall and leafy greens in the spring. In most places, people ate small portions of meat, though not at every meal. By following simple rules like these, people solved the omnivore's dilemma. You're welcome, Santiago. You're eating what? Why are there so many more rats and humans in the world than koalas? Because the koala's food supply is limited to one thing: eucalyptus leaves. Koalas can only live where there are eucalyptus leaves, and if the eucalyptus trees die because of drought or disease, that's it for the koala. But the rat and the human can live just about anywhere on Earth when their familiar foods are in short supply. There's always another they can try. The list of things human beings have eaten or will eat is pretty much endless. It includes bugs, worms, dirt, fungi, lichen, seaweed, rotten fish, the roots, shoots, stems, bark, buds, flowers, seeds, and fruits of plants, and every imaginable part of every imaginable animal, not to mention haggis, granola, and chicken McNuggets. Today, the modern omnivore has almost no culture to fall back on. Standing in our giant supermarkets, we feel more lost than someone standing in a forest 10,000 years ago. This is important. No culture to fall back on. That is his point of view and his opinion. We no longer know for sure which foods are good for us and which aren't. Thanks to the food industry, we don't even know what it is we're eating. Sometimes it even seems like we've forgotten why we eat. Modern Americans have lost the solution to the omnivore's dilemma, and today the problem is bigger than it has ever been. But it's not an unsolvable problem. We need to recover the skills and knowledge people used to have. The omnivore's brain. The first thing we should remember is that our bodies have evolved to help us solve the omnivore's dilemma. Evolved is one of your word choice words. For example, we have different teeth for different jobs. We can bite like a carnivore or chew like an herbivore, depending on the dish. Our digestive tract is also good at digesting different types of foods. The omnivore's dilemma is one reason our brains are so large. The koala doesn't need a lot of brain power to figure out what to eat. As it happens, the koala's brain is so small that it doesn't even fill up its skull. Zoologists think the koala once ate a more varied diet than it does now. As it evolved toward eating just one food, it didn't need to think as much. Over generations, unused organs tend to shrink. In other words, as the koala's diet shrank, so did its brain. So if our diets shrink, does our brain shrink as well? Something to think about. Taste and the tongue. Traditionally, maps of taste buds show areas where the four different tastes, sweet, bitter, salty, and sour, are detected on the tongue. New research, however, has not only uncovered a fifth taste called umami, which means savory in Japanese, but suggests that taste buds may be more complicated. Certain cells may be dedicated to detecting one taste, but found all over the tongue. Or certain areas may just be more sensitive to particular flavors. There's also some evidence that men and women taste flavor differently, and that some lucky super tasters, experience more intense flavors because they have more taste buds than the average person. Huh. So our tongues can make a difference in how we taste things. Interesting. Humans, on the other hand, need a lot of brain power to safely choose an omnivore's diet. We can't rely on instinct like the koala does. For us, choosing food is a problem that has to be solved with our brains and our senses. To help it make food decisions, our brain developed taste preferences. We think of taste as something that helps us to enjoy food, but our sense of taste evolved to help us screen foods. Our taste buds divide food into two groups: sweet foods that are good to eat, and bitter foods that might harm us. Sweetness is a sign that a food is a rich source of carbohydrate energy. We don't have to be taught to like sweet foods, we are born liking them. Huh. That's why babies like sweet things. Right now, he's using your senses, the sense of taste, as one of his points of view to help us understand why we eat the way we eat. So that's important to know that he included taste in order to help us understand why we choose certain foods. Okay? Sweet foods that are good to eat, oh, and bitter foods that might harm us. Sweetness is a sign that a food is a rich source of carbohydrate energy. We don't have to be taught to like sweet foods, we're born liking them. A sweet tooth is part of our omnivore's brain. It is an instinct that evolved to help us through times of food shortage. It says, eat as much of this sweet, high energy food as you can because you never know when you're going to find some again. This built in sweet tooth is so strong that we will keep eating sweets even after we are no longer hungry. How many of you like to eat sweets? Candy. Yay. Put your hands up. I love candy. Shouldn't have candy, but I love candy. Yay. Thank you, Evelyn. How about the rest of you? Hands up, thumbs sideways. Do you like candy? Yay. Um, this built-in sweet tooth is so strong that we will keep eating sweets even after we are no longer hungry. Our instinct doesn't realize that in modern times, there are always sweet foods available to us. We don't have to go hunting and gathering to get more. All we have to do is walk to the refrigerator or to the candy store. The bitter and the sweet. We are also born with a built-in signal that tells us to stop eating certain foods. That's the taste we call bitter. Many plant toxins, poisons, are bitter. Avoiding bitter foods is a good way to avoid these toxins. Pregnant women are very sensitive to bitter tastes. This instinct probably developed to protect the developing fetus against even the mild toxins found in foods like broccoli. But this is not a good excuse to stop eating broccoli. It turns out that some of the bitterest plants contain valuable nutrients, even useful medicines. Oops. We can't only rely on our sense of taste when we choose what we eat. Besides, many people like the taste of broccoli. That's an author's tone right there. Author's tone helps us to know what the author is talking about. So this parenthesis part is author's tone. The bark of the willow tree is extremely bitter, but early humans learned to make tea from it anyway. Why? Because willow bark contains salicylic acid, a pain reliever. It's the active ingredient in aspirin. Our food choices are not just dictated by instinct. We can learn to eat better foods if they are good for us. We sometimes even decide that we like them. That's disgusting. Humans are great omnivores, but there are some things that we just won't eat, things that all human beings find disgusting. The list of disgusting things include corpses, decaying things, decaying flesh, and animal waste. Ew, who would want to eat those things? Ugh. Curiously, the one bodily fluid of other people that doesn't disgust us is the one produced by the human alone, tears. Humans are the only ones who cry. Consider the only type of used tissue you'd be willing to share as tissue that someone has cried on. The disgust we feel about these items is probably genetic, part of the inborn instinct that tells us what we should eat and what we shouldn't eat. Disgust is an important feeling for omnivores since it keeps us from eating rotten meat or other items that carry disease and bacteria. One way we overcome the bitterness of some plants is by cooking. Acorns are very bitter, but Native Americans figured out a way to turn them into a rich food by grinding, soaking, and roasting them. The roots of the cassava, a plant in Africa, contain the poison cyanide. This keeps most animals from eating them. But once again, humans figured out a way to safely eat cassava by pounding and then cooking. And humans had the cassava roots all to themselves, since pigs, porcupines, and other animals wouldn't touch them. Once it was discovered, cooking became one of the most important tools of the human omnivore. Cooking vastly increased the number of plants and animals we could eat. In fact, cooking probably was a turning point in human evolution. Anthropologists think early primates, pre-humans, learned to use fire and cook about 1.9 million years ago. So cooking is another one of your word choice words because it tells us that he's focusing on the process of how we get our food. That was around the same time the human brain grew larger and our teeth and jaws grew smaller. Rats. Rats are also omnivores, but unlike us, rats can't pass lessons for or food habits down to their many, many children. When it comes to the omnivore's dilemma, each rat is on its own. Rats solve the omnivore's dilemma by testing new food. If a rat finds something new to eat, it will nibble a very tiny bit and wait to see what happens. Most poisons in nature are not that strong. A tiny amount will make the rat sick, but not kill it. If the rat doesn't get sick, then it knows it can eat the whole thing, a knowledge it retains for the rest of its life. This ability to learn is what makes poisoning rats so difficult. So when you put those rat traps out and you think it's poisoning them, remember they only take a tiny bit, and if it doesn't make them sick, they'll eat it. Otherwise, they're not going to eat it. Luckily, we don't have to use the rat method for solving the omnivore's dilemma. And in fact, over thousands of years, people in every corner of the globe built a large body of food knowledge. Through experience, they learned what combinations of local foods made them healthy. They learned which foods to avoid, they learned how to cook and prepare those foods, and passed all this knowledge on to their children. You grew up knowing what to eat and how to cook it. The culture of food didn't just solve the omnivore's dilemma. It was also an important glue that bound people together. So culture is another word choice word that he's using to set the tone of this story, this chapter. It was part of the identity of a tribe or a nation. People hold on to their national foods even after they move to other countries. Visit any neighborhood where there are immigrants, and you'll see shops that sell food from the home country: pastas from Italy, kielbasa sausages from Poland, curry spices from India. National food cultures are more than just a list of foods, they are a set of manners, customs, and rules that cover everything from the correct size of a serving to the order of dishes served at a meal. Some of these rules have clear health benefits. If you live in Japan and eat raw fish, sushi, then it makes sense to eat it with spicy wasabi. Raw fish can contain bacteria, and wasabi kills bacteria. The people who developed the custom of eating sushi with wasabi didn't even know there was such a thing as bacteria, but somehow they figured out that eating wasabi kept them healthier. People in Central America cook corn with lime and serve it with beans. It turns out there are important health reasons for doing these things. Corn contains niacin, an important vitamin. The way to unlock the niacin in corn is to cook it with an alkali like lime. And eating corn and beans together supplies all the amino acids humans need. It's a good thing to eat beans and tortillas with a little lime. Tastes good, makes you healthy. Food fads. We have never had a national food culture in the United States. There's really no such thing as American food. Fast food hamburgers don't count. We have few rules about what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat. We don't have any strong food traditions to guide us, so we seek food advice from experts. This may be one reason we have so many diet fads in this country. One of the earliest of these so called experts was Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. Yes, that's the same Kellogg whose name is on Kellogg's cornflakes and other cereals. Kellogg was a doctor who ran a sanitarium or health clinic in Battle Creek, Michigan. Large numbers of wealthy people traveled there and followed Kellogg's nutty ideas about diet and health. Some of his advice included all grape diets and almost hourly enemas. Nutty ideas is telling us what Mr. Poland's um, what Mr. Poland's point of view is. He does not put a lot of stock into what Dr. Kellogg said or did. It's a word choice word for tone. He's being sarcastic. An enema is a cleansing of the bowel in which, oh, never mind. You know the bowel is part of your stomach, the tubes. Never mind. He followed the enemas with doses of yogurt applied to the digestive tract from both ends. Half was eaten, and the other half was something else. Well, you can figure it out. I can't read this, so we're going to go here. The earliest so called food expert was Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, who prescribed all grape diets and hourly enemas before going on to launch the cereal company. So you can figure out what enemas are. A scene from the Swedish treatment room at Kellogg's Health Spa. It kind of looks like a gym, an old-fashioned gym, because there's people on bedding, hard bed things with pulleys and ropes and stuff. Around the same time, millions of Americans got caught up in the fad called Fletcherizing. This involved chewing each bite of food as many as 100 times. It was named after its inventor, a man named Horace Fletcher, also known as the Great Masticator. He knew how to chew food. It's easy to make fun of the people who paid good money to follow his advice. But are we really so much smarter today? Food fads still come and go with alarming speed. A scientific study, a new government guideline, a lone crackpot with a medical degree can change our nation's diet overnight. What's the author's tone here? What word choice word does he use to tell you his tone? Put it in the chat. What's the word choice word that he uses to tell you how he's feeling? He's feeling annoyed, but what's the word? What's the word that lets you know this? Write it in the chat. What's the word? Good, Sine. That's his feeling. I agreed, Calvin. He is feeling irritated, but what's the word choice word that tells you that? A lone crackpot with a medical degree. What's the word he uses? Ah, there you go. That's right, Luis. Esteban, what's the word? He's making fun of them. He's making fun of them. Good, Miguel. Do you have a pen? Pen? Just one I'm using, sweetie. Correct. I think that the author's tone is disappointed. I agree. I think he is disappointed. What is the word, though, that he uses? What is the word? Just right there. A lone crackpot with a medical degree can change our nation's diet overnight. What's the word? We got some right answers here, some good feelings. Sine, Luis, Miguel, excellent. Evelyn, a crackpot. You only use a word like that when you're being totally sarcastic. When you're disappointed, you use a word like crackpot. Does it work? Okay. So he's making fun of these people paying lots of money to go see doctors. Good, Esteban. In 2002, one article in the New York Times said that carbs make you fat. Suddenly, millions of Americans gave up bread and other carbohydrates and started eating mainly meat. 50 years from now, that diet might seem as crazy as Kellogg's enemas. So here's another word choice word, crazy. Okay, so he's letting you know how he feels about these doctors and their prescriptions. The no fad French. Relying on experts or magazine articles is a very new way of solving the omnivore's dilemma, but there are still lots of countries where people solve it the old fashioned way. They eat traditional foods following customs that haven't changed for hundreds of years. They eat traditional foods following customs that haven't changed for hundreds of years. And amazingly, in those countries where people pick their foods based on custom and taste, the people are actually healthier than we are. They have lower rates of diet-related illness, such as heart disease. Sorry, baby. Take the French, for example. They eat by and large as they have for generations. They drink wine, eat cheese, cook with butter, and eat red meat. Oh, yes, they also eat bread without worrying about it. Yet their rates of heart disease and obesity are lower than the health crazy Americans. Another word choice word, health crazy. How can that be? Maybe because how we eat is just as important as what we eat. Where's your scissors? Go look in your little red buckets in your room. A global dilemma. Traditional food culture is under attack in France and in many other countries. One reason is the spread of global industrial food companies like McDonald's. In countries big and small, lifestyles are changing as people adjust to modern jobs and a global marketplace. Will the omnivore's dilemma grow in these countries as it has grown in the US? Or will we learn from these traditional food cultures before they disappear? Hopefully, we'll learn. French culture includes a set of customs or rules about how to eat. For example, the French eat small portions and don't go back for seconds. No supersizing. They don't snack. You'll almost never see a French person eating while driving or walking down the street. They seldom eat alone. Instead, they eat with family or friends, and their meals are long, leisurely affairs. In other words, the French culture of food allows the French to enjoy their food and be healthy at the same time. Because we have no such food culture in America, almost every question about eating is up for grabs. Fats or carbs, 3 square meals or little snacks all day, raw or cooked, organic or industrial, vegetation or vegan. We seem to have even forgotten what real food looks and tastes like. What are you cutting out? See on that block up there with the knives? There's scissors up there, but those are very, very sharp. And make sure you put them back. Hold it down. There you go. Marketing new meals. I think I skipped something. Instead, we make meals of protein bars and shakes. Then we consume these non-foods alone in our cars. Is it any wonder Americans suffer from so many eating disorders? Marketing new meals. And so for us, the omnivore's dilemma becomes bigger and bigger. We can't rely on taste to choose among processed foods. We can't just eat foods that we enjoy. We have no stable food culture to guide us, handed down over generations. We are told instead to rely on science and the industrial food system. So how does he feel about this industrial food system? He's not happy with it. Will tell us which foods are good for us and which are not. But the science keeps changing with every new study. This situation suits the food industry just fine. The more anxious we are about eating, the more likely we are to listen to claims from food marketers. Food companies make more money if they can get us to change our eating habits and buy their processed foods. They spend billions to create a constant stream of these new foods, and then spend billions more to get us to buy them. Some of these foods are marketed as being healthy. Others are sold under the banner of convenience. Many are not meant to be eaten at a dinner table. The protein bar or Pop Tart is designed to be consumed in the car on the way to school or to work. Campbell's has even designed a microwavable soup that can be eaten in a car. About 47% of American families say they still eat together every night. But research shows that many of those family dinners are, in fact, something quite new. In many houses now, each member of the family prepares something different to eat. Mom might cook something vegetarian while the kids take a pepperoni pizza from the freezer and zap it. They don't all gather at the table at the same time. By the time dad sits down with his own low carb meal, the kids have gotten up. Is that a family dinner? Not in my opinion. Do you guys have family dinners where you sit with your moms and your dads and your siblings? and all eat together? Nice, Sine. Anyone else? Do you eat with your family? Nice, Evelyn. Nice, Alexandra. Nice, Elaine. So some of you do. I know when my girls were little, we all ate together. Oh, you eat alone? I'm sorry. I know. I didn't raise your mom that way. You should be eating at the table. Yes, family dinners. Family dinners are important. What difference does it make if families don't eat together? Well, let me answer that question with another question. Is eating just a task that we have to get done as fast and conveniently as possible? Is it you eat with your sisters and brothers? Nice, Jasmine. Um, is it something we do only because we have to, like taking medicine or brushing our teeth? Looking at food that way robs us of one of life's greatest pleasures. We should not only enjoy and appreciate our food, we should enjoy making it and eating it in the company of others. Food is not just fuel, it's also about family and friends and community. Nice, Evelyn. That's the way my kids grew up. That's the way I grew up. We sat at the dinner table, we talked to each other, we found out how each other felt for the day. It was a family get together. And you know what? You don't gain a lot of weight when you sit and talk and stretch it out. Sometimes you eat with your family. Yeah, it's a nice thing to do. You get to know your family that way. Yet, in spite of this, as part of my research, I decided to have one of these alone but together meals. My family and I were going to share our separate processed meals from a fast food restaurant at the end of the industrial food chain. We were going to solve the omnivore's dilemma the way millions of Americans do every day. We were going to McDonald's. So I know that I've gone to McDonald's and you buy your separate meals and you sit there, but the kids are off playing while you're eating. It's not fun. And people tend to go back for seconds. All right, let's see. In your reflection journals, you're going to be writing chapter 8 and chapter 9 on page 145. And I have these, I'm putting them up on the site now, but let me show you. Okay. So this is chapter 8. Again, I have the who, what, when, where, why on the side, but I also put senses and culture there to remind me to reflect on what Mr. Poland said about the senses of taste and the senses of culture. Okay. And then I have my questions. What is the author's purpose? What is the author's point of view? What is the author's tone? And some words that the author uses to show his tone. Okay. So that's for chapter 8. And I did the same thing for chapter 9. These are on page 145 and 146 in your journal. Write them down, tell me your thoughts, and take a picture. Send it, upload the picture. Okay? So we've got 15 minutes. I'm going to play chapter 9 for you. We may not finish, so you'll probably have to read the rest on your own. All right? So chapter 9. Oops. Why is he here so early? Here we go. Chapter 9.
Chapter 9, My Fast Food Meal. Fast food, page 115. Every food chain ends in a meal. When it came time to eat my industrial food chain meal, since it was impossible to follow Naylor's corn or steer 534 directly to my plate, I had a lot of choices. I could have bought a meal from KFC or Pizza Hut or Applebee's or from hundreds of other fast food outlets. I could have bought a bunch of prepared foods and heated them up. I want to say cooked at home. In the end, I decided to buy a meal at a McDonald's and eat it in a moving car. Somehow, it seemed like the thing to do. My 11-year-old son, Isaac, was more than happy to join me at McDonald's. He doesn't get there often, so it's a treat. For most American children today, it is no longer such a treat. 1 in 3 American kids eats fast food every single day. Judith, my wife, wasn't quite as happy. She's careful about what she eats. To her, having a fast food lunch meant giving up a real meal. Isaac pointed out that she could order one of McDonald's new premium salads with the Paul Newman dressing. I read in the business pages that these salads are a big hit, but even if they weren't, they'd probably stay on the menu. Marketers know that a salad or veggie burger in a fast food chain gives kids something to say to overcome parents' objections. But Mom, you can get the salad, which is exactly what Judith did. Order the Cobb salad with Caesar dressing. At $3.99, it was the most expensive item on the menu. I ordered a classic cheeseburger, large fries, and a large Coke. Large turns out to be full of 32 ounces, a quart of soda. Of course, thanks to the magical economics of supersizing, it cost only 30 cents more than the 16-ounce small. Isaac went with the chicken nuggets, plus a double thick vanilla shake and a large order of fries. He also ordered a new dessert treat consisting of freeze-dried pellets of ice cream. We would be eating alone together. That each of us ordered something different is one of the wonders of the industrial food chain. Marketers break the family down into its various groups, parents, kids, moms, dads, and sell something slightly different to each group. That way, we each have a reason to go to McDonald's. The total for the 3 of us came to $14 and was packed up and ready to go in 4 minutes. Before I left the register, I picked up a handout printed in tiny type that was called A Full Serving of Nutrition Facts. Choose the best meal for you. Chicken or nuggets? We could have slipped into a booth, but it was such a nice day, we decided to put the top down on the convertible and eat our lunch in the car. Both the food and the car have been designed for eating on the road. These days, 19% of American meals are eaten in the car. In fact, we could have ordered, paid for, and picked up the food without opening the car door. Chemical nuggets. This is the little text feature on the right side of page 117. Chemical nuggets. Among the chemicals added to a chicken nugget are sodium aluminum phosphate, monocalcium phosphate, sodium acid phosphate, and calcium lactate. Those are antioxidants that keep the fat in the nugget from spoiling. Something called
I don't know where that's at.
dimethyl polysiloxane is an anti-foaming agent. It is added to keep foam from forming when the nugget is fried. Dimethylpholacine is a suspected cause of cancer. Then there's also something called tertiary butylhydroquinone, or TBHQ. This chemical is made from petroleum and is either sprayed directly on the nugget or the inside of the box it comes in. Its job is to help preserve freshness. TBHQ is a form of butane, lighter fluid. Eating a single gram of TBHQ can cause nausea, vomiting, ringing in the ears, delirium, a sense of suffocation, and collapse. Ingesting 5 grams of TBHQ can kill you, but the government allows food makers to spray a tiny amount of this on your food to preserve it. Our car has cup holders, top of page 118. Front seat and rear, and except for the salad, all the food could be eaten with one hand. Indeed, this is the genius of the chicken nugget. Now, it is just as easy to eat chicken in a car as a hamburger. No doubt the food scientists at McDonald's are right now hard at work on the one-handed salad. By the way, the car was running on gas mixed with ethanol. So while we were eating corn, the car was eating corn too. I ate a lot of McDonald's as a kid. This was back when you still had to order a second little burger or sack of fries if you wanted more. The chicken nugget had not yet been invented. I loved everything about fast food. The individual portions were all wrapped up like presents, and I didn't have to share with my three sisters. I loved the combination of flavors when I bit into a burger, the soft, sweet roll, the crunchy pickle, the tasty moistness of the meat. Fast food has a flavor all its own. That flavor has little to do with the flavors of hamburgers or French fries you might make at home. It's flavor created from chemicals in a laboratory. These fast food flavors make a lot of fast food meals taste the same. Even chicken McNuggets have the same fast food taste as the hamburgers or French fries, though they're technically chicken, not potato or beef. Isaac announced that his white meat chicken nuggets, a new McDonald's recipe, were tasty. When I asked Isaac if the new nuggets tasted more like chicken than the old ones, he seemed surprised by the question. No, they taste like what they are, which is nuggets. He then dropped on me a withering two-syllable, duh. In his mind, at least, there is no real link between a nugget and a chicken, except the name. No doubt a lot of you feel the same. Isaac passed one up to the front for Judith and me to sample. It looked and smelled pretty good, with a nice crust and a bright white inside that looked sort of like chicken breast meat. Yet all I could really taste was salt and that all-purpose fast food flavor. Maybe there was a hint of chicken in there somewhere, but not much. Later, I looked at the flyer I had grabbed to see exactly what goes into a nugget. Of the 38 ingredients it takes to make a nugget, I counted 13, and that can come from corn. Among them are the corn-fed chicken itself, modified cornstarch, mono, tri, and diglycerides, dextrose, lecithin, yellow corn flour, regular cornstarch, vegetable shortening, partially hydrogenated corn oil. According to the handout, McNuggets also contains several completely synthetic ingredients, items that come not from a corn or soybean field, but from a petroleum refinery or chemical plant. These chemicals are what make modern processed foods possible. They keep the food from going bad or looking strange after months in a freezer or on the road.
Whoa. Hang on.
Chapter 9, Part 2. Where's the Beef? Page 120. Compared to Isaac's nuggets, my cheeseburger is a fairly simple food product. According to the McDonald's handout, the cheeseburger contains only 6 ingredients: a 100% beef patty, a bun, 2 American cheese slices, ketchup, mustard, pickles, onions, and grill seasoning, whatever that is. It tastes pretty good too, though what I mainly tasted were the ketchup, mustard, pickles, and onions. By itself, the gray patty had hardly any flavor. Eating it, I had to remind myself that the burger came from an actual cow, probably an old burned out dairy cow, which is where most fast food beef comes from. Part of the appeal of hamburgers and nuggets is that their boneless forms allow us to forget we're eating animals. I'd been on the feedlot at Pokey only a few days earlier, yet I had trouble connecting that place to my cheeseburger. I could not taste or smell the feed corn or the petroleum or the antibiotics or the hormones or the feedlot manure, even though I knew they were there. By the time it reaches us, industrial food has been processed so much it no longer seems like something made from plants and animals. Where did my cheeseburger come from? It came from McDonald's. As far as industrial food companies are concerned, that's all we need to know. But it's just not so. My cheeseburger came from slaughterhouses and factory farms in towns like Garden City, Kansas, from ranches in Sturgis, South Dakota, from food science laboratories in Oak Brook, Illinois, from flavor companies on the New Jersey Turnpike, from processing plants owned by ADM and Cargill, from grain elevators in towns like Farnhamville, And at the end of that long and twisted trail from a field of corn and soybeans farmed by George Naylor in Sheridan, Iowa. How much corn did Judith, Isaac, and I consume in our McDonald's meal? Add it up. Hamburger. Corn fed to a cow equals 2 pounds corn. 6 nuggets. Corn fed to a chicken equals a half pound. High fructose corn syrup in 3 drinks equals 1 pound. Subtotal, 3.5 pounds of corn.
Oh my God.
There's more corn in the meal, but it's harder to measure. There are corn products everywhere. For example, there's more corn sweetener in my cheeseburger. The bun and the ketchup both contain HFCS. It's in the salad dressing too, and the sauces for the nuggets, not to mention Isaac's dessert. Of the 60 menu items listed in the McDonald's handout, 45 contain HFCS. The nugget is made with corn products called binders and emulsifiers and fillers. Isaac's shake contains milk from corn-fed animals. Judith's salad contains cheese and eggs from corn-fed animals. The salad's grilled chicken breast is injected with a flavor solution that's also full of corn products. In fact, the majority of calories in the healthy salad come from corn. And the French fries, you would think those are mostly potatoes, yet half of the 500 calories in a large order of fries come from the oil they're fried in. That means the source of those calories is not a potato farm, but a field of corn or soybeans. Corn Eaters R Us, page 122. Sometime later, I found another way to figure out just how much corn we had eaten that day. Scientists can use a machine called a spectrometer to look at the carbon in food and tell how much of it came from corn. I asked Todd Dawson, a biologist at the University of California, Berkeley, to run a McDonald's meal through a spectrometer. Dawson and his colleague, Stefania Membelli, prepared a graph that showed roughly how much of the carbon in the various McDonald's menu items came from corn. In order from most corny to least, this is how the laboratory measured our meal. Soda, 100% corn. Milkshake, 78%. Salad dressing, 65%. Chicken nuggets, 56%. Cheeseburger, 52%. French fries, 23%. What looks like a meal with lots of variety turns out to be mainly corn. But so what? Why should it matter that we have become a race of corn eaters, such as the world has never seen? Is this a bad thing? The answer all depends on where you stand. If where you stand is an agribusiness processing cheap corn into 45 different McDonald's items, it is a great thing. It is a way for agribusinesses to sell us more food than we need, and so a way for them to make more money. We may not be expanding the number of eaters in America, but we've expanded how much food they eat, which is almost as good. Judith, Isaac, and I together consumed a total of 4,510 calories at our lunch, which is about 2/3 what the 3 of us should eat in a day.
Okay, interesting stuff. All that junk in our foods. You need to finish reading chapter 9 in order to do your reflection. Tomorrow you have your test on chapter 1 through 9. So make sure you skim through it and make sure you know what's going on. And especially look at author's purpose, author's point of view, and author's tone. Other than that, yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye. See you later.